This time on the Families Matter Most podcast.
This podcast is going to be a little bit different because I have my own kids on it, sharing their honest, sometimes a little too honest, experiences growing up with me. Disclaimer, we do talk about Christmas and what that means. So if you're listening to this in the car with your kids, you might want to hit pause or make sure that they are definitely preoccupied.
Every time Jenn Dean speaks, I can see hope, knowledge, expertise, wisdom, and love.
When Jenn Dean speaks about parenting, we make sure that we are there to listen because we know we will get valuable advice.
Families Matter Most with Jenn Dean.
She doesn't just give skills for us to be better parents, but she teaches us how to reach our children's hearts. And at the end of the day, that's what truly matters.
Welcome to the Families Matter Most podcast. It's Jen, and I am terrified today because I have my kids on the podcast, and I have literally no idea how this is going to go.
Neither do we.
We are celebrating 100 podcasts. This is the 101st, and I thought an interesting way to kind of commemorate 100 podcasts of me trying to share parenting tips would be to have my kids on, and let's talk about the wins and fails of parenting over the years. So I want to introduce you to Matt.
Hello.
We have Evan.
Yo.
And Ryan.
Hey, guys.
And
I'm here. I exist.
All of a sudden, they're quiet. What is this? They're never quiet.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to say anything else?
I guess podcast is only based on talking, so we gotta just...
We cannot have silence.
No silence.
None.
So guys, what is something interesting that people might not know? I know I share a lot on the podcast and I'm pretty open, but maybe there's some things people don't know about living with me. Anyone have anything?
I had a really hard time thinking about how to answer this question because the definition of interesting is hard to narrow down on, as you also have a radio show. And I don't know what people don't know.
Oversharing is kind of my motto, I guess.
I think I have one that no one else knows. You leave piles all over the house. You like piles.
Yeah.
Is that a new one?
Yeah.
This is old news.
She will take all papers and put them in piles around the house, and then Dad will be mad because there's just piles. And so Dad will say,
But they're organized piles.
in the subject of they are all paper.
Correct.
I have to be able to see them. Once Dad gets mad and puts them in a drawer, they're gone from my life.
Yeah.
They disappear forever.
The problem is solved. But if it's there, it's reminded.
I have to be able to see.
You're reminded.
I see parallels for myself now. This is
I also do it too.
going great.
So is this a win or a fail?
Yes.
We all have piles.
Major win.
It's interesting, okay?
Evan, what is something behind the scenes of, living with a parenting coach named Jenn?
Something behind the scenes that most likely you don't know is she actually became a personal trainer to inspire me. I was kind of the rambunctious, wild, crazy kid that wanted to just jump around a room.
Yes.
And there was this really cool parkour gym, which happened to be a YMCA.
Yeah.
And you got your certification to be a personal trainer and taught spin classes at this YMCA. And you let me just go run around and go on. There's like this wall running thing. It's really cool. And there's these rings.
Like a grown-up play structure. So
Yes.
for parkour, for all kinds of hard things.
I absolutely loved it. But then you took it a step further and then you created a parkour class and you learned how to do parkour to teach the class to kids. And it was awesome. It was great.
It was all for Evan because he didn't have a parkour class. And I thought,
well, Ryan came too.
Ryan
So healthy nepotism.
yes. Yes.
Ryan came too.
The difference between it though was Evan would go, when Evan would go with Mom, he would spend time running around in the parkour gym. If I went just with Mom, I'd bring a book and then position myself with a bunch of elastic bands. So I was suspended in the air with elastic bands and read my book. And then one time I dropped it and the book split in half. So I just taped it together.
Of course.
Yeah, I went to the front desk, was like, do you guys have tape? And they're like, why? I'm like, I was reading. And they're like,
Why were you reading here?
Yeah, I'm like reading in a gym. They're like, what's wrong with you?
Nobody
you nerd?
reads.
I'm working out my brain, okay?
Everything needs a workout.
But you don't understand. He made a hammock out of stretch elastic bands.
It was
from
really
monkey
comfy.
bars. It
worked.
It was
So
awesome.
To take it a step even behind, even more, the whole reason I became a personal trainer it was kind of on my bucket list, but it cost quite a bit of money to get certified. And Matt, my oldest, and his fiance at the time gave me a bunch of money one Christmas to get certified to be a personal trainer. And I cried, and it was amazing.
It was a well-spent $20.
Yeah. So Matt was my favorite
Not one
child
Christmas that year.
He
Not
was.
one Christmas.
We'll take that. We'll take that.
What do you think? Is there like a particular parenting moment growing up, good or bad, that you remember? Who would like to answer this question?
I think I have the one for the youngest age.
Oh, okay.
I think one of my earliest memories. And I can't remember anything before it. And to summarize, as a child, I would always get up in the morning and I'd run to my parents' room and I'd, run in and be like, hey, what day is it? What time is it right now? What's the weather today? What's going on today? What's for supper tonight? What do we got? Like, I would have to know the entire day at 6:30 in the morning every day. And I remember one day I ran in there, and I've been doing this forever. It was just routine. And I walked in, and you and Dad had already beaten me to being awake. And so you sat up and surprised me and said, "Happy birthday, you're 4."
You remember that?
And I remember that to this day. And I was like, wow, it's that day. This is going to be awesome. And I was tall enough I could reach the little TV in the room.
What?
Yep.
Matt's very first memory was that.
Yep.
His 4th birthday morning.
Yep.
That's so great.
That's actually crazy.
I win.
Dude, I can't remember
Competitive at all.
How do you remember that? I can't remember anything past the age of like 12.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
Just remember better.
6.
No, skill issue. Skill issue.
All right, so that was Matt's first memory. That's a beautiful memory.
Yeah.
I'm a little hesitant, right? Because there could be some bad parenting moments because I failed a ton. Does anyone have a not so great parenting moment they remember? Ryan.
I have one. I remember I was put into cadets. Which was,
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
oh yeah, it was a very short time because I hated it. I hated it.
Okay, I need to just a little bit of explanation. Ryan is not super athletic.
Thanks, Mom.
Mike,
We've
drop.
already established that we go
No.
to the gym and he wants to make a hammock and read.
It is true. It's true.
Yeah.
But
He also got a 1460 on his SAT. So
Brilliant.
The workouts helped.
However, he really loved guns and army and battles and like chess. And so I thought cadets would be perfect. Now, sorry, please continue.
No, that's the problem though, is that it was interested in like guns and that stuff in like stories, not like actually being an army soldier.
cadet.
Yeah. Because I would go there and I remember I would stand there for like an hour and a half and watch an old man walk across a thing and I'd be like, I hate my life.
This
And
looks
I'd be like,
nothing like Call of Duty.
and I'm like, where do I shoot people? I remember I almost passed out once because I have to just stand there. Like I stood there for like an hour. I'm like, came here tonight and I just would stand. And I'm like, okay. Anyways, that's not the story. The point is, one time on the way up there, there's a song by Bruno Mars. It was like what was the song again?
Hot man.
Oh, yeah.
I'm too hot.
Man.
Hot
I know this.
damn.
Hot damn, it says. I forget the name of the song, but anyway, it says hot damn in the song. And I was like, I heard hot man, and I was like, Mom, is it hot man or hot damn? Like, what? And Mom was like, it's hot man. It's
Hot man. I didn't want him to learn the swears.
And so then that night, there happened to be like some kind of event that there was music playing, and that song came on. And then other friends, which I wasn't very cool. I wasn't really like, no, everyone else there kind of had a clique, and I was like outside of it. And I remember being like, oh, sounds like the weird kid already. And then I remember that song came on, and they were like, hot damn. I'm like, no, it's hot man. And they're like, no, it's not. You're dumb. And I was like, and I was like, no, my mom said.
Betrayed.
Betrayed.
And so then I was like, And so I remember I got to the car, and Mom was like, how's the night? I'm like, good. Mom, what's
Why
that
are you
song?
lying?
Yeah, I was like, what's that song? Did you lie about that? And I remember, I think you think of it much worse than I do. I think afterwards I was like, okay. And now I can laugh about it. I'm like, because I don't care. But
That was a moment. That was a parenting like spotlight moment in my life. Go on. Go on.
I remember though, because we've talked about it since then, and I think you have a lot of weight behind it. But I remember just being like this moment that was kind of funny now. But yeah, you did lie to me about that song. And it
I did.
kinda sucked.
I lied and
Liar.
I got caught. And yes.
Oh no, Brian got caught.
My mom
Ryan
said.
paid the price. Although, to be fair, anytime you're like, my mom said.
Yeah, that shouldn't be your argument.
Yeah, that's not her fault, Ryan. That part's not her fault.
There was a reason why I was the loser, all right? There was a reason.
No. I did have a big epiphany after that moment because I did see on Ryan's face in that moment, I saw all the trust a child has for their parent, that my mom or my dad, like they know everything. They are the smartest, most important person in my world. And I saw it disappear. I saw it vanish in an instant where in his eyes. See, this is like a moment for me. In his
Right.
eyes.
I think it's true.
I saw that. And I thought, I've crushed him. And I went home and I cried and I vowed I'm never going to do that again. Even in the little things, I'm going to tell the truth. Even when it's really hard and even when it's uncomfortable, I will always tell the truth because they have to believe in my word. Anyway, that was a huge moment for me. And I'm so sorry I did that.
No, I never thought of you as a liar afterwards. I just realized you were human. I was like, oh, like, like it's like
A
you're
human
not,
that lies.
like you're not a superhero.
To save
you know
her
what I mean?
kid, you know? She's like saving this pure mind.
Right? You can have the best intentions. Since then, and I believe I've talked about it on an earlier podcast, and I'll make a note once I figure out which one it was. I'll make a note and I'll link to it in the show notes. I talk about something called the suitcase, and it's a strategy I learned where I've said to kids, I've said to my own kids,
It's too heavy
you know
for
what?
you.
I think it's too heavy for you. You remember?
I was really curious. Out of the brothers here, I was like, I want to know. Like when I was younger, I was like, I heard about drugs, and I'm like, Mom, what are drugs? You know?
yeah.
And of course, I'm like 8 years old. I'm not supposed to know about
I don't want you to know about.
We should know to say
drug
no to
Yes.
things. We don't
Yes.
need to know what it is and what it's about. And I'm like, why do people do it? Why is it so sought after?
Yeah.
And you're like, it's too heavy for you. And I'm like, but why? And then I remember asking, like, when can I learn?
Yeah.
Because the curiosity was just too much.
I remember saying to each of you at some point, saying, I could tell you the answer to this, but once you know, you can never not know.
That only made me want to know it more.
So I would
doesn't
say,
help.
no, I would say,
You lost the
can you
game.
trust me?
Yeah.
Can you trust me enough that I will tell you later, but for now it's too heavy for you?
And I'll say, as a kid, this really helps because I remember my biggest problem would, because I said so, I hate that line from parents being like, you can't. Why? Because I said so. I'm like,
Yeah, that's the worst.
not a reason.
That's a cop-out.
Yeah, like it's not fair. This
Fair.
one is, there is a reason. It's just because I literally don't want to tell you. And so this is like, it's saying honestly, I don't want to. Please trust me. And that's when there is a reason. Okay, I can trust that now. Not just this vague, because I said.
I think we have time for a crazy sidetrack story that I might regret and I might edit out of this later. But when Matt, my oldest, when he was young, he was on a playground and he'd seen something spray painted on a wall and he knew how to read, but he didn't understand. And he came, home and it said, Mrs. Such and such, a teacher, gives good
Blank.
blank.
Gotcha.
Right.
Blank. And so he comes home and he's
Blue
saying,
jeans.
What is that? And I'm like, I don't want him to know what that is. Because once, like that, no. And so we did the suitcase thing.
Yeah.
But side note, there were kids on the playground that had no idea. And there was a little girl in Matt's class who could read and was like, I like
Blue jeans.
I like blue jeans. And they didn't know. They didn't understand. So,
That's terrible.
So I know. It's one of those things like I want kids to trust their parents. I want parents to tell their kids. But sometimes it's just too heavy.
And I think saying this is too heavy for you works better than saying just because.
Just because.
That's what I wanted to add on to Ryan. I think that works better in most cases.
It's a grown-up thing.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. That means
Now I feel
now
like
I'm going to Google it myself later on my Nintendo DS.
Now I'm gonna ask all my friends because they know.
Says.
Because you don't want to tell them, oh, it's a grown-up thing, because then it makes them feel like they're not grown up.
I know,
But younger
that's
people always want to be old. I guess you can't.
But
win.
I still say that if I said the suitcase thing and if any of my kids came back to me and were still like, no, I want to know, then I would tell them. Because I would still rather they got the truth from me than went elsewhere.
Santa.
Is that a parenting win or a parenting fail? Santa.
It is an interesting parenting moment.
That's a me fail.
I would call it a win because I had a pretty good laugh.
at my expense.
Yeah, in grade 4, I'm over it. I'm like, whatever, Santa's not real, whatever, move on. And if any kids are watching, I'm sorry, I crushed your dreams.
I'll put a disclaimer in the beginning of the podcast.
I was going to say, maybe we should preface with that. Hey, if you are a child, maybe tune out for a minute. It's too heavy for you.
Close your eyes.
Integral to the story,
Close
though.
your ears.
Yeah. But Ryan,
I was really invested. It was like grade 2, and so I remember hearing people at school being like, "Santa's not real, Santa." And Evan was like, "I think," and so he went to you guys and was like, "Is Santa real or not?" And they're like, "Do you want to know?" And they said, "Ryan, do you want to know too?" Because I was being a little questioning too.
Also, I didn't trust Evan. I 100% believed that whatever we told Evan, he would tell you no matter what.
Like immediately.
Honestly, that's true.
Which you would have done.
also, I already knew. I was like, I came in the room and I said, Santa's not real, right?
Yeah.
Like, I was asking for confirmation.
Evan already knew. Yeah.
And I was like, "Santa's not real." Like, and so then Mom and Dad was like, "Okay, Santa's not real," and I'm like, "Okay," and Evan's like, "I knew it." Okay, and I'm like, "Okay," but
I was so sure of it, but there was a sliver of me that was like, but what if it is? Like, so I had to know.
Yeah.
And then Ryan goes, at least the Tooth Fairy's real.
Easter Bunny are real.
At least we still have those.
And then we all just look at him and
And
he
then
goes,
Dad's
no.
like, "No, they're not. They're not." And I'm like, "Really? None of them." And I started crying. It was too much at once.
That's when he broke down. He
Yeah.
fell apart. There's not the Easter Bunny.
Yeah, and then it went to the
Magic was
Easter Bunny,
dead.
like, Santa, the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, no!
The world was spinning.
We do the best that we can, right? And you guys will all get there too. And we'll have another podcast with all of your fails.
Next Christmas. Wait a minute.
Wait.
Next
What did I
Christmas,
sign up
you should
for?
talk about Santa, just because I think that's a common. I think learning about Santa isn't real is always very sad, and I feel like I don't know how to do that well.
It's the
that's
first
interesting.
moment your child will mourn the loss of a friend.
You're not wrong.
I'm right.
I haven't thought of it that way. They're grieving.
You mourn the loss of magic. The world becomes
Yeah.
bleak.
All right, and such we turn to Halo
He's
and
a
Call of
poetic
Duty.
writer. What are you going to say?
Let's save that for Christmas. Let's do another Christmas podcast.
By the way, kids, your dreams aren't real. Merry Christmas.
Is there a parenting strategy that I used, that you think worked really well or not well? Like any...
So
do you think?
I will take this one for a second because I think there's two sides to what I'm going to say, and I think mine is the less than ideal side.
Fair. Let's remember that Matt was the firstborn, and we didn't know... Like, I didn't know what I know now. So I say he was the first pancake because I made all my mistakes with Matt.
Funny enough, this goes the other way too. I got the first pancake of parents.
That's true. Matt had us all to himself, and none of the other brothers can say that.
All the mistakes, you know. Okay, sorry, I got distracted now. But basically, when I was young, everyone was playing Halo at the time. Xbox 360,
I
everyone was
literally
playing
mentioned
Halo.
oddball in this podcast.
Double kill. Anyways,
Yikes.
and so we were, that was the game to play at the time. And because it was rated M and I was 12, not at least 17 or 18 to buy the game, therefore, obviously, no one else my age was playing it. And it was evil of me to ask to play such an evil game. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but also not a whole lot.
I'm nodding in agreement because I can remember that.
Yeah. And so very often it turned into Matt's going to his friends' houses, not to the parents' house. And to actually answer your question, what I'm going to say is the parenting strategy that you use that I think worked really well is that you guys trusted me a lot. There was a lot of trust, and I was able to exploit it a little bit.
I had no idea Matt was so sneaky.
I didn't know
That's how
either.
it works.
That means you did a good job.
But let me continue. There's an ending to the story.
I was going to say, this sounds like the strategy doesn't work well. You should not trust your children.
Well, let me finish.
Okay.
It gets worse before it gets better because we would play Halo at my friends' houses all the time, all night. We would have all-nighters playing Halo Reach, and it was the best game of all time, and it's still super nostalgia, fun game.
Amen.
Move on from Halo.
Let me. But I ended up playing, Call of Duty and some much worse games at the time, and then watching R-rated movies and stuff like that, like some actual things where if we just played Halo at my house, we probably wouldn't have gone to those other steps. And so I think this is one part where Al was able to go, yeah, we just play games and it's good. Yeah, what do you play? We just, play a couple games. And eventually it was like, yeah, we just kind of play Halo. You guys don't want it in the house because Evan and Ryan were young. And that was the way that you convinced me that we couldn't get the game. So I don't know where that line was drawn.
Interesting. Okay.
To this day, and like I felt bad about lying about playing Call of Duty and whatnot. But eventually it was, oh yeah, they trust me. Maybe I shouldn't go behind their back. Like it was bad that I was sneaking, but also we have a relationship today where lots of those people, they just could do whatever they wanted. The parents didn't care.
Right.
And so there wasn't a need for any trust.
If we could go back and redo that whole scenario, like what do you think would have been best?
Probably having Halo at our house.
Yeah.
And I understand at the time, Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, there was a lot of articles on how your child will never be the same after playing these games. And I can understand that, but it was a fun game to play.
You were going to play it anyway.
Yes, it was going to happen. It was just, do we want to do it at the house where we can avoid the R-rated movies, which were much worse?
True.
And then avoid, Matt being scared and sleeping on the floor of your bedroom for a couple of weeks, which was no fun.
Which was no fun for anybody. Let me say. Mommy and daddy time suffered a lot.
It could have helped delay that at least, or not have that happen if our house was a place that we could huddle and not Matt going to everyone else's houses.
That's interesting. I think going back, I would agree with you. I also have a ton of grace for myself because
first pancake.
He was the first pancake, and all of a sudden he wants to blow things up and shoot things, and it was a hard time.
Yeah, video effects.
With video effects, come on, he's not committing arson. Just
I know. Looking back now, I feel like I wish that I could have done that, so it's a great conversation. I think parents, a takeaway could be to be able to have trust and openness. Maybe is more valuable for us and our kids, and maybe it's worth it to negotiate and compromise a little bit for the sake of trusting and having a safe place for your kids.
And having a proper understanding of what it is. So I think if you could have played Halo with me as a child, it could have been a bonding experience. It could have been like, hey, my son gets to teach me something. So that leads to a cool dynamic between parent and child where it's like, hey, I'm not just learning from you all the time. You actually get to learn from me. So that would have been really cool.
That's true.
But that didn't happen. So I think if I could challenge parents out there, see what your child is interested in and humble yourself a little bit and go, hey, I'd like to play with you. I'm not good at this. You're going to have to teach me and walk me through it. Because then the child will learn what you have to do to them all the time, and it's have grace and understanding and patience.
And be interested in what they're interested in.
Yeah.
I love that. That's brilliant. Ryan.
And if I can add to this too, like you were saying, if I can go back and change it, I probably would. And I think you guys did, because for me, it was a very different picture. I know Matt and I have talked a little bit about the differences.
We had different parents growing up.
Ryan is my youngest, and then Matt, who just spoke, is my oldest. So yeah, we've got it.
There's a gap of 7 years. So when Matt was 14, it was another 7 years of you learning until I was 14.
True.
So I just would say too, I think one thing that worked really well is that I always felt that I could come to you guys and talk about things for my whole life, which I think was awesome. And to make really practical, one thing that you guys did that was very helpful was you did a thing on Sundays called Sunday Sunday, where at the end of every week on a Sunday night, we would make ice cream sundaes, and then we'd all talk as a family, and then we actually split off and have one-on-ones. I guess one-on-twos, because either way, it just me would talk to both you and Dad.
Yes.
And then just Evan would talk to both you and Dad. I'm not sure if you were around for that, Matt.
For the end of it.
Yeah, Matt was there for some.
Yep.
But I had that from a really young age. You would always ask, "How are you doing?" And it wasn't "I'm doing good." It was like, "I'm looking into your face. Please share with me what's going on in your world." And I remember it was really nice because I could just it was just me, so I could talk about problems I'm having with siblings.
You could yap.
I would yap. I would talk about problems I had with siblings. Talk problems I have at school. Problems I have with myself. Just little things that were going on. And then you can know what's going on in my world. And then also I can know I can come to you guys and talk about it. And so it really made this really open environment. And I just remember too, I remember we'd always talk about everything, like literally anything. People that I think most kids wouldn't talk to their parents about, I ended up talking with you guys about. So yeah, I just think having openness with your kids is really helpful because I know I can come and talk to you guys, and it's not going to be, I'm going to get in trouble for it. Like,
Yes.
maybe sometimes, depending on the thing, but I think you guys would always say, like, if you guys come to, like if you plead guilty in trial, you get a lesser sentence. Like, if I come to you guys and talk about it, you guys will at least respect that you guys you're coming to me and talking to me. And so I think that worked really, really well.
I am so happy. We've made lots of mistakes, but Sunday, I will die on that hill. That I think has been an incredible tool for our family. Evan, you've got something.
One parenting strategy I find that works really well for me. Mom, you and I are alike.
We
overcome things. We grit our teeth and we go through pain and turbulence to overcome things.
Which is really hard when we both have different opinions about what the right thing is.
True.
Because we will both fight.
We will die on the hill.
Yes, we will.
Even if one of us is wrong, we will fight because we suddenly have a disagreement.
Oh.
Now we have to fight to like defend our...
But we kind of understand each other.
Yes, we do. We get it. And in the end, we realize one of us is right. And one of us always admits defeat. And it's just like... And not even defeat. We've banished that word in a good way.
Yeah. And I think we get each other. I hate it, but you're right.
Yes. And so with that being said, what I found that worked really well is instead of punishing me with spanking, which at the time I consider that to be tolerable, I don't think
it was
that
much
was a
more
failure.
common in those days.
And not even, and diving deeper into that, I don't think it was wrong.
Okay.
I don't have any negative feedback for that, but I do remember spanking didn't work for me. Because I would just grit my teeth, and when you would say, okay, are you sorry? And I would say, never. I would say, never. And you'd be like, I don't want to hurt you. And you'd be like, what, are you too much of are you too weak? You can't hit me? Like, you don't want to spank me? And I remember, but okay, leading on to the fact, what did work was you took away privileges. Right? Privileges we take for granted. Things like deciding what we want to do. Things like deciding how we want our day to go. I could bike to my friend's house whenever I wanted. Some days I just didn't want to, but I had a choice.
Yeah.
And when you use the strategy of taking that choice away, taking freedom away, pure freedom, that hurt. That hurt more.
Evan experienced this consequence more.
The 24-hour, have you mentioned this on the podcast?
Well, I call it restriction.
Restriction.
24
What is it called
hour?
now?
I call it restriction now. What do you know it as?
24-hour loss of privileges.
Yes.
I remember that.
I hate it.
It was rough.
Because
You had it all the time.
You really did.
it would be like, Evan, can you go do the dishes? And I'd be like, can I finish math? Like, can I finish math? And you would say, no, I need it done now. And I said, and I was really ignorant. And I was like, I'll do it after math.
I was asking, but not really asking.
Let's be real. I'll do it after this Halo match. Let's be real.
Why did you bring up Halo?
Full circle. Oddball. And I remember that strategy really worked well for me. And I'm saying that gritting my teeth because I'm like, oh, I hate it.
I hate that it worked.
But it
24-hour
worked.
loss of
It
privileges.
worked.
Do you
And
know-
it helped me learn, because simple ways for, and by simple, I mean, it's very complicated, but simple things like spanking or stuff like that, that's a natural instinct. Like if an animal gets bitten from their mom, they know to stop doing something. Like an animal, right?
Yes. Don't bite your kids.
No,
Yeah, don't do that.
Like,
But you're
okay,
right.
I'm just
Of
natural,
course.
right?
You're gonna
This is
push
not financial advice.
If a wolf, this is not, no. If a wolf bites their pup, the pup will not do it again, right? Same thing. However, I didn't learn like that. So I found that using that strategy helped me learn that my actions have consequences
Yes.
in a mental way, not a physical way.
Oh, we have to have another podcast talking about that. Do you think, Evan, that would be true for all strong-willed, determined, tenacious kids, that like consequences like spanking probably won't work for them because they're just going to push back even harder?
Yeah, I don't think it would work. I think for determined kids, they would just either run away and avoid the family, because instead of working on myself, if I make friends and they're fine with me sleeping over all the time or going out partying eventually into teenage years, instead of dealing with myself, I can just avoid the family that cares about me and then just go mess around with friends because it's all fun all the time. But then when I actually have an argument with them,
Then you leave.
Then I
Yeah.
have to come back to the family and work.
You avoid it.
Yeah. So
Oh.
I think no matter what, it always comes full circle. Full circle.
Probably the better lesson from that is honestly just that you should learn how your child responds. Like that, just because I think every child will respond differently. So that's probably a good lesson in there too.
Okay. I want to bring us back for a second. Back to the Sunday thing.
Okay.
Before I was so rudely interrupted by this other cool topic. No.
Halo.
Betrayal. Okay. Just to bring up the Sunday topic again, and I had gotten close to this point without knowing we were going to go there previously, but especially for like you and Dad and myself, we had positive interaction. I'm not saying we didn't have positive interaction, but lots of the parenting that you guys did was, hey, stop doing this. It's not good.
Yeah.
You can't do this because it's not good.
Yeah.
It was lots of like the negative, don't do this, don't do that.
And that tends to be something we do with our firstborn. So for every parent, be conscious of that. You likely are expecting too much. You're too hard on your firstborn. You think that they're bigger, more mature, more responsible than they actually are. And that's something that I think every family does with their firstborn.
Yeah, totally. It's interesting. I really wish we had the Sundays when I was in school.
Yeah.
There were all of my life, basically, even leading up to when I was first dating my now wife. I didn't tell you guys it until afterwards because I didn't want to know of what I can't do or what's not, like what's wrong to do in this case.
Yes.
And it led to me being very private and secretive. And so I would have text conversations with people and I would delete the texts after I read them because you guys would constantly walk in. What are you talking about with your friends? Let me look through your phone. What are you doing that's wrong? It was like constantly being interrogated.
So the interactions felt negative.
Yeah. Like it was you looking for what's wrong and what I'm doing wrong versus what's going on in your life and how can I be a part of it?
Absolutely, we did
which
that.
Which is very different.
Oh, and then you almost are dreading interactions with us because what is it going to be now?
Yeah.
How old were you when we started doing Sunday? Do you remember?
Like
grade 10, grade 11, grade 12?
I think
like 13. After high school.
I already said I'm bad with ages.
I think I was 13, so then Matt would have.
I would have benefited it in school age.
So Matt was living in our house, but he was an adult. That would have been
like most people in this
generation.
That was
at the end, though.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just saying, trying to initiate a Sunday with someone who's 18 years old is very different.
Yeah, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah, from like.
And be like, how's it going, Matt? It's good. So, can I go back and play Halo?
Right?
It's mid. It's mid.
I imagine it would have felt a lot like, okay, here we are. We've been hard on you for years and years and years. Now come sit down. How
and be
are
friends.
You really? We care about you. I imagine.
What are you talking about?
Yes.
It was too late.
Well, and not that there's ongoing issues or hurt because we're close, but I'm more private and I'm a little more secretive by nature. And part of that was because I couldn't feel open to tell you things when I was a child. And knowing what I know now, I would have definitely benefited from having you guys walk alongside me than walking and looking down.
And like swooping in and
Yeah.
nitpicking.
Yeah.
Oh, that is painful, but so true. That's really good. Thank you for sharing that because I wanted this to be honest. And if parents can learn from, my mistakes as well as the wins, then that makes me happy. Evan, you wanted to add something.
I think this is important because I think this is actually just tackling the fourth question. What advice would you give to parents who are trying their best to reach their hearts of their kids?
Yeah.
And I think the key word from what you were describing is honesty. And I think with a lack of that, you get kids who want to run away, who want to hide, who rebel in a private way. Because in my mind, I found I rebelled in a healthy way. And that sounds crazy, but even when it came to having a cell phone, I wanted a cell phone when I was 12 because my friends had it, and you were like, come on, let's not do that. And whenever we had the discussion, it was because you didn't want the pressures of having a phone to be on us. And I didn't care about what was right for me. I just wanted to have it. But when I did have it, there was a lot of honesty that needed to come with having the responsibility of having a phone. Mm-hmm. Because once you have a phone, the decisions you make, they don't just affect yourself.
And they don't go away.
Especially young kids, I can see now commenting on things, making videos on things. These things stay on the internet forever. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they realize how hard it is to report any of this to their principal, to their friends,
Absolutely.
to share it across. So what advice would you give to parents who are trying their best to reach the hearts of their kids? I would say encourage a home of honesty and being open to talking about hard subjects with your parents. And you guys did an amazing job with that. When it came to problems with my close friends, walking away from really valuable parts of my life, I came to you guys first because I didn't know what to do. When I had a problem, I would go to my friends because it felt like I could relate. But now suddenly this was an issue I can't relate to. I wanted so badly to do it on my own. And like many strong-willed kids, we just want to do it on our own and learn it and figure it out. We don't need help. We don't need people.
Ask for help? No.
Never. But you guys made a very welcoming, healthy, you made a very welcoming space for it.
Oh, thank you.
I think, like, speaking to parents right now too, your kids are going to go through stuff anyways. They're going to make bad decisions. Like, I think lots of parents forget what it's like to be a kid, and you make dumb choices a lot of the time. Kids are going to be stupid no matter what, and no amount of helicoptering will stop that.
Okay.
But I think it's the question is, do you want to know what your kids are going through or not? Because if you just are constantly trying to, like Matt said, just stop negative behavior, they're just not going to come to you because they know that if I come to you, I'm just going to be in trouble or it's going to be negative. And so I think the question you have to ask yourself is, do I want a relationship with my child or not? Because the question of is there going to stop them or not probably isn't going to make a difference. Yeah, they're going to make stupid choices eventually. That's going to happen. And so do you want to be there for them when they have? It's like a question you have to ask yourself a lot because, yeah, it's going to happen. So just make sure you're there for them in that as well and that they know they can come to you because otherwise then they're alone.
That's really good. That's really good. So what I'm hearing from you guys is honesty, communication, and connection.
Yeah.
I think what Matt was speaking about is having a connection with your child is more important than just pointing out all of the things they're doing wrong and what they need to work on and do better. So honesty, communication, and connection, would those be the three most important things parents
I would say
need?
so. Yeah.
Thanks for being on the podcast today.
And Halo. I'm just kidding.
Oddball.
I had to bring it back. Got too serious.
It's so funny because now I'd be like, hey, you're shooting aliens. That's good. Like, let's...
Better than shooting people.
Courageous. At least you're not shooting people and getting, what is it, like headshots. That's terrible. What game is that? Headshots.
Unless it's for Super Earth.
Fight for our country.
What was the worst, I'd say, from that point of time was the GTA 5 craze.
Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft Auto, because it was all just...
Which, by the way,
you run over a grandma.
don't get points for hitting people with your car in that game, okay?
mentally-
That's not how the game works.
I banned
However-
it from my house.
Mentally, you do. If there's a cyclist, you hit them.
This is a terrible game.
Anyways,
This is a
stop
terrible
talking
game.
about this.
Yeah, sorry. Side tangent.
Right,
Thank
calm
you.
down. Calm down. You're sharing too much.
Thank you so much for being willing to come on the podcast and being honest. I appreciate all of this. And I think this is going to help families. I think this is a real behind the scenes, like behind the curtain, what it's like growing up.
Oh, you should see our dinner table.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. This is dinner table light right now.
This is the light version.
So thank you so much. Maybe you guys will come back and be on a podcast today. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. If you have any questions or any topic ideas, please send me an email, let me know, and then say something nice about my kids. That will make me happy.
Please.
Okay.
Please say something nice. Please.
Thanks for listening to the Families Matter Most podcast with Jenn Dean, part of the Saskatchewan Podcast Network. If you are interested in contacting Jenn for one-on-one parent coaching, for speaking engagements, or just to get a little more information, please visit our website, familiesmattermost.com.